Okay, scrappers, time to melt some more copper. So got a whole, still got lots of copper here to melt, keep adding to the pile. So I'm just going to make myself some 1 kilo copper ingots, and not sure what I'm going to do with them in the end, whether I sell them or just keep them in my own stockpile. Most likely I'll just keep them, but maybe I might do a eBay auction and list a bunch just to see how we go, because I keep saying, you know, that once we melt them into copper ingots, we actually get, you know, at least 6 times the value of copper. So we can maximize our value, or just keep them in a collection, sell them another time. So I'm going to be doing a few different melts, and yeah, a couple of melts over a few days, different days, whenever the weather is right. It can't be too hot, and obviously we can't have any rain, and I can't do it on weekends when there's, you know, too many neighbors around. So prefer to do it on weekdays. So I'm just gonna melt some copper now and pour myself a few ingots, and I'll probably do 2 or 3 batches today. But so this video, you'll see a few different batches as we go over different days. I've already done one. Actually, I've done a couple of different batches already, but one of them, the ingots didn't turn out that good. Yeah, I done one inside the garage. The ingots didn't turn out even. Another one I did where the ingots, where the video didn't actually work. So stick around and we'll pour some copper bars. Wow, that's hot coffee tea, hot coffee water. Oh, that's boiling just about. You could cook a stew in that. Just a nice little piece to put back into the next batch, because this is from wire. It's always easier to melt when it's like this instead of just wire, because it's more solid, obviously, so it heats up quicker and just melts up quicker. Wire takes in that propane furnace, wire takes about 40 minutes. Solid stuff takes about 25 minutes usually. But that's a beautiful, it's actually, yeah, really happy with that one. Yeah. These are all going to be part of the of my eBay sale. So what I'm going to do, it's just another test, because I get a lot of people doubting my comments when I say that, you know, you can get about 6 times scrap value just selling them as ingots like this, because they're, you know, hand poured artisan type ingots. And, you know, certainly, you know, I know I'm still going to get a lot of comments of people saying, oh, well, what's the point? You still get the same money at a scrapyard. We don't sell these at scrapyards. Once again, for about 30th time I've said it, we don't sell these at a scrapyard. If we're going to sell copper to a scrapyard, we might as well just sell copper wire. You know, I mean, we're not silly. The reason why we do it is, one, because I enjoy making ingots for my personal collection. I like stacking ingots like this. And 2, to sell them as ingots, because there's a lot of people that want beautiful copper bars like this. This is, you know, probably close to 1 kilo or probably a bit more. And people want, you know, a really nice copper bar. And so try and buy one. And I'm not talking about a buzz bar that's been cut into pieces and stamped. I'm talking about hand poured pure copper bar from pure copper wire. And any impurities are burnt out pretty much, like the lacquer and all that stuff. Okay, so there's another 2, and I'm going to keep going, and we're going to melt, going to make as many bars as I can over the next few days, and we'll have a look what we got. I want at least 10 or 12 to put up on eBay. So we'll see, but these 2 are absolutely, you know, they've still got to polish them up, but they just look fantastic. You can see straight away that they're you know, each they're, you know, completely different, you know, different characteristics to it all around. So even the sides, some got imperfections, but that's fine. That's what hand poured bars are all about. You know, every one is unique. And yeah, they're you know, a lot of effort. You know, you got to invest in a good furnace, and there's time and fuel, and then polishing this up and all that. And most people that want bars can't just melt their own copper wire. You can get free copper, but it's not easy to melt copper wire. You need it very hot, and you need the right furnace. You can't just do it on a camp stove. It's not like lead, or even aluminium is reasonably easy to melt, but to melt copper, you got to get the heat up to about 1150 degrees Celsius, probably more around 1200 degrees Celsius to help it really pour well. So it's not just melt, you know, the melting temperature of copper, or the melting point. The pouring temperature is needs to be a lot hotter. As you see inside the crucible, the piece of copper that sort of stays in there, that'll cool down, and you can, you know, take that out, bash it down a bit and melt it again. But it's good to just keep the furnace going. So I'll turn it back on. That copper will be still red hot in there, and I'll throw some more copper wire and we'll keep going. They are two beautiful pours there. Probably the best two pours I've ever done. They look fantastic. Wow, that's super hot. We'll let them cool down. They are super beautiful pours, super hot and super perfectly straight. I had to balance out the whole setup, so you know, you get it slightly off angle and you don't get perfect pours, obviously. So all right, well, I've got the furnace. There's still a bit of copper inside the crucible, so all I need to do now is just add some more copper into it, and it's going to be a lot quicker for the next pour. We'll let these cool down. By the time these are cooled down and I quenched them, we're probably ready for the next pour. That's them two bars. Beautiful. They'll polish up really nice. A little bit of pitting on the base. Basically the molds weren't cold enough. Oh, sorry, hot enough. So, but that's all right. We got the job done, and yeah, they'll polish up really well. I think there was oil on that mold. I don't know how it got there. So yeah, it's a little bit hard to see how high it is. I didn't want it to go right to the top, so this one looks okay. This one went right up to the top, and that one just I put a third mold there just for excess, because I didn't think I was going to have that much copper in there. So turned out I got an extra ingot anyway, and still quite a bit more. But it looks like it's going to rain, so I had to turn off the furnace and just leave it at that for today, and I'll pour a few more tomorrow, because the last thing you want is a little bit of rain to come over the furnace. Okay, so this little one was just for excess copper, so it's not meant to be an ingot or anything. I just throw this in to start off the next melt, just so it doesn't sit. I don't have too much sitting in the crucible to solidify. Okay, there we have it. That's a bit of an edge there we need to file off, but beautiful little ripples on this bar. Still can't avoid pit marks, because you just have to get these crucibles or the molds just way too hot, and by the time you go and turn off the furnace and set up, you know, like take out your the crucible and all that, and by the time you get back they cool down very quickly. The only way would be to have them constantly under a flame. So I can't do that setup here, but one day I'll be able to do it a little bit better. So I'll just get rid of these things. Okay. Put on a bit of face protection. Well, we've boiled that water. I'll go and tip it out and put some fresh stuff in there. Okay, so here's our 3 bars. They look a bit ugly now, but once we polish all this carbon and stuff off, they're going to look spectacular. Really nice ripples. A little bit of a sharp edge on this that we can just simply grind away. Not bad bases either. These 3 are going to polish up really nice. And they certainly weigh over 1 kilo, I think. This one certainly does. So probably closer to 3 pounds each. But we'll weigh them all up once we're finished making bars. Couple of nice pours there. Beautiful. I want them just under the top so they're not so heavy. Some of them are a little bit too heavy. I've got quite a lot that are, you know, very big. So I want to make a couple that are just slightly smaller. That's a beautiful bar. Not bad, a bit different. Few pit holes still. Hand poured custom bar. This one slightly rough edges, but we can file that off and polish it up. It'll come up all right. All right, well, that was pretty good. I wasn't sure how much I had left in there, but the gas bottle was running out, so I didn't want to put too much more copper in there, just in case I ran out of gas. So I got a good smaller one there. Really happy with that one. Quite a bit smaller, so that's probably going to be the lightest one. And then I got another full-size one here. But again, pretty good pours. This one turned out really excellent. So yeah, happy with that. We'll just let it cool down and I'll start polishing some of these bars up. And I think I've got enough now for putting put a bunch up on eBay and just see how the sales go again. As I've mentioned before, I get about, the last time I sold ingots like this, I was getting about 6 times the copper value, which is about right. If you look at how much effort you got to put into actually melting, it's not easy to melt copper, and you need a pretty good furnace, and it takes a lot of trial and error before you start getting it right. So it's not as if anyone can just go and get some copper wire, melt it down and make an ingot. It takes a lot more time than that. So that's why there's a very good premium on copper bars. Obviously you can buy commercial kind of buzz bars that are, fabricated. But when it comes to hand poured artisan type of ingots, well, obviously there's a premium there because each one is unique. And, no matter how many bars you pour, they're never going to be, 100% spot on. Yeah. So, had a little bit of a spillage on this one, but that's fine. It's, little spills aren't really that dangerous as long as you've got all your safety equipment. I've got my safety shoes, thick pants, and I've got the proper leather apron and gloves, also face mask. So I'm fully kitted up in case of any, random spill. But yeah, so far so good.
All right, so yep, next stage will be polishing them up, and I'll put them on eBay and we'll see how they go. So no doubt, whilst the video is up and running, the auctions will, well, I'll list them as buy it now, so I'll list them up at the same time, so if anyone wants to check out the listings, they can.
Always make sure you got one of these masks on when you're sanding down, polishing bars, because you don't want to be breathing in the copper stuff. And also, if you're trying to keep them shiny, and you know, obviously the copper bars will tarnish. And if you want a even tarnish and no blotchy spots, make sure you don't touch it with your bare hands until it starts actually tarnishing. Otherwise you'll get the oil from your fingers will stain it, and you'll get fingerprint marks before it actually evenly tarnishes. But there you go. Wow, beautiful little bar here. There you go. It's 999 pure copper, made from yeah, just pure copper wire. And we've got ourselves a nice little stack here. Look at that. Actually, might just zoom out a little bit. Got the camera lined up. So there we go, we've got ourselves 16 copper ingots, and I think most of them, well, most of them definitely are over 1 kilo. Some of them quite a bit over, but there is 2 small ones. So this is the smallest one, and it's quite a nice one, this one. I like that. As you can see, the ripples are on the tops. They're all kind of unique ripples, so you know, it makes every bar unique. And this is probably one of the biggest ones. And yeah, some of them have slight pit holes, like here's a pit hole in the edge. You know, every one of them has some kind of imperfection, but you know, that's the beauty of hand poured ingots. So here's an example, like this one's an early one, and it's been touched, as you can see, with fingerprints, and you can see how it tarnishes quicker. So if you want a more even tarnish, you want to either polish them out so they'll polish out, and just needs a little bit more work, but that's what I mean by touching them with your fingers before they all actually tarnish. Once they start getting a coating of tarnish all over, then it's fine. It's just the first. So yeah, that's probably, as far as the small ones is concerned, that's probably the best of the smalls. There's another small one. It's pretty good too. Had to grind off a little bit off the top here, but still it's fine. Once it tarnishes, it will it'll look much more even. So if I can, just to give you an example, I'll give you some of the weights. And so yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to list these on eBay, and you know, just do a little bit of a trial to see how well they sell again. As I said, I've done it once before, and surprisingly they sold very well. Well, that's perfect. It's 1 kilo exactly. Well, 5 grams over, but we allow for 5 grams variation on the scales. So there you go, 1 kilo exactly. Well, I think that's the first bar I've actually made at spot on 1 kilo. So I'll see whether I sell that one or not. This one here, yep, again, it's a 1 kilo bar, 20 grams over, allow 5 grams variation. So it's just over 1 kilo. Perfect. So I've got 2 kilo bars. I've got a rough idea on what level of the crucible I need to pour to get round 1 kilo. But some of these bigger bars, like, that's probably the next size up. You know, still a pretty bar. Okay, so 1.24 kilos. So that's exactly around 2 pounds. So that's a 2 pound bar. This one's quite a nice one too. I just love the ripples on the top. They just look spectacular. That one, 1.37. So yeah, they're all around that kind of weight, 1.39. So beautiful bars. And so 1.3s, you're looking at it's, you know, they're 3 pound bars. Now this one I think is the largest of the lot, and it's actually quite a nice one too. I really like this one. Let me get up here. Okay, so this is 1.4. So they'll polish out, and just needs a little bit more work, but that's what I mean by touching them with your fingers before they all actually tarnish. Once they start getting a coating of tarnish all over, then it's fine. It's just the first. So yeah, that's probably, as far as the small ones is concerned, that's probably the best of the smalls. There's another small one. It's pretty good too. Had to grind off a little bit off the top here, but still it's fine. Once it tarnishes, it will it'll look much more even. So if I can, just to give you an example, I'll give you some of the weights. And so yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to list these on eBay, and you know, just do a little bit of a trial to see how well they sell again. As I said, I've done it once before, and surprisingly they sold very well. Well, that's perfect. It's 1 kilo exactly. Well, 5 grams over, but we allow for 5 grams variation on the scales. So there you go, 1 kilo exactly. Well, I think that's the first bar I've actually made at spot on 1 kilo. So I'll see whether I sell that one or not. This one here, yep, again, it's a 1 kilo bar, 20 grams over, allow 5 grams variation. So it's just over 1 kilo. Perfect. So I've got 2 kilo bars. I've got a rough idea on what level of the crucible I need to pour to get round 1 kilo. This one's quite a nice one too. I just love the ripples on the top. They just look spectacular. That one 1.37. So yeah, they're all around that kind of weight, 1.39. So beautiful bars. And so 1.3s, you're looking at they're 3 pound bars. Now this one I think is the largest of the lot, and it's actually quite a nice one too. I really like this one. Let me get up here. Okay, so this is 1.48 kilos, so this is about 3.5 pounds. Beautiful bars. So there you go, guys. Hand poured copper ingots, 1.48. One of a kind, unique. Okay, so this one looks like the heaviest, 1.515. So 1.5 kilos. Wow, that's a nice one. Or was it this one? No, that's definitely heavy. 1.515. So that's the heaviest one I've got, and that's a full pour. You can right up to the top, but as you can see, this one actually poured perfect. Can't get any more perfect than that, you know, from my way of doing it. Sure, it's got a couple of pit holes in the bottom, but you can't do a great deal about that. The only way is to get the crucibles red hot, and well, to get a crucible red hot, that's about the same temperature as the melting point of copper. So you'd have to put the crucible itself into a furnace to get it that hot, and then pour really quickly. But beautiful. How's that, guys? I think I'm getting a little bit better at pouring, and certainly quicker at melting copper. What I found is, obviously the first time you heat the furnace up, it takes some time. So it takes about 20 minutes just to heat it up, to start thinking about melting the copper. But once you've done your first pour, you just keep putting, you leave a little bit of copper in the bottom, so you want to have more than you need, and then if you just add more copper to it as it's going, because it's heated up a lot, it only takes about 15 minutes to get to the next pour, and you can just keep going like that, providing that you've got enough fuel and stuff to keep you going. I've been doing 2 pours in a day. That's kind of enough because I've got other things to do, but there you go, guys. Awesome. Pure 999 copper ingots. This one's a beautiful one too. This top is fantastic, and the sides are good. It doesn't even have, any major pit holes, just basic ones, not very deep at all. This one is beautiful bar. Wow, that's a top specimen. That weighs 1.44 kilos. Wow. But yeah, a lot of them are really, really perfect. Some have slight imperfections, like on the edge here, but that's just the way it formed as it was pouring. So you can't do a lot about that. And yeah, once again, it's kind of what makes them unique. So anyway, I'm going to probably list 10 or 12 on eBay, and I'll do that now. So the next thing you'll see is some of the listings that I've put on eBay. And then we'll just take it from there. I might do an update video on how, if any, sold over the next few weeks. But if you want to keep an eye on the auctions, just maybe check out the auction pages, and maybe
watch the items yourself to see if they actually sell, if you're interested in doing your own copper ingots for profit rather than just keeping yourself. But you know, it's not the sort of thing that I'm going to really stress out at and try and sell and discount or anything like that, because as you know, I do this for my own hobby as well, and so I'm happy to just keep these ingots in my collection and just keep stacking like that. Okay, well, here we are at my eBay auction site, and in case you're wondering, I'm Electrical Gadgets with an underscore if you want to look for me on eBay, or you can search the items that I'm selling, which is a hand-poured copper bar. So yeah, so I've listed 14 bars on eBay. I haven't been on eBay for, I've had a big break, about 4 or 5 months. So I switched off my eBay store, and now I'm just listing as a regular eBayer, free listings. So yeah, so I've listed 14 bars, and say for instance, this bar here is 1.47 kilos. It's $63.95, and basically I've got myself a bit of a formula for pricing. So instead of just picking up a random price, I first base it on the scrap metal price. So not the actual retail copper value. Like for instance, you know, if you look on the copper price charts, you'll see that currently it's about, let me have a look here. So currently the real price of copper is $3.07 a pound. That's US, or it works out to $4.07 a pound Australian. So that works out to $8.95 a kilo. That's what the actual price of copper is on the price charts. So, but that's $8.95 a kilo, but I'm basing my prices on scrap metal price, which here in Australia, on average, it's about $6.50 a kilo. So about $2.50 a kilo less than what the real price of copper is. Okay, so yeah, so I base it on $6.50 a kilo, and then I multiply that by 6.6. I go for 6 times the price of copper, but because I'm selling on eBay, you got, you know, at least another 10%. It's probably about 14% in fees and stuff. So I add another 10%, so 6.6 times the copper price, and so that's what my my bars are selling for. So 1.47 kilos at 6.6 times the scrap value works out to $63.95, and I just go like that. So it give you an example. So here's my one of the items. So that's the 1.47 kilo copper bar, and zoom in, you can see that's basically what it is, what it looks like. And so I do a cropped up picture, and then I do 3 regular kind of pictures. Top showing the bottom because I want to show the natural craters and stuff that have been created, and also show the side just to give an idea on what it looks like on one side. And that's it. And so that's my little auction text. Hand poured copper bullion bar, 1.47 kilos equals 3.24 pound. And so I go on, blah, 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 do the regular sales pitch. And like I said, I've sold about a year ago on eBay these copper bars, and you know, they all sold out pretty quickly. Or some of them took a little while, but they eventually sell. And so yeah, I just wanted to show you that that, you know, if you wanted to maximize your value on your recycled copper, that this is one option. Now, you know, it's a big difference turning, you know, going from just a copper bar to
scrap copper and turning it into a copper bar, because there's a lot of work. You've got to have, you know, a lot of equipment. You've got to have a good furnace, and, you know, it costs money to run the furnace, even though it's on gas. You know, you got to add a couple of bucks here and there for all that, and your time. And then there's so many failures that you got to re-pour, and it's just not easy for the average person to just go and get scrap copper somewhere and then trying to melt it into a ingot, you know. And you might think, well, what's the point of, you know, turning copper into copper? Well, you know, people like to stack copper bars just like they stack gold bullion or silver bullion. They like all kinds of metals, and they just want a, you know, one version, you know, a copper bar, you know. Obviously, if you're stacking gold, you know, you're not getting 1.47 kilos of gold bars anytime soon. You know, that's about $60,000. So, yeah, so that's the reason why I do it. And if you look on eBay, you'll see for yourself other poured bars, and they're not cheap. And also you'll see buzz bars, which are just machined factory bars. They come in like giant 30-foot lengths, and then they just cut them into little pieces, and they'll sell like, you know, 1 pound bars, 2 pound bars. Well, that's just commercial factory pressed copper. It's not a hand poured bar. You know, that's completely different ball game. So most mints and so on, even when they pour their bars, it's done through it's all mechanical. This is true hand poured artistic style, you know. And so there you go. If you're looking at maximizing your value on your scrap copper, and you're prepared to you know, put in a bit of time and pour your own bars, well, that's about the going price, about 6 times the scrap value. So it's probably about about 4 or 4.5 times the actual physical copper price on international charts. So yeah, and there you go, guys. Well, the only problem here is obviously no problem sending these bars to Australia, anywhere in Australia, because you know, they all range in the 1 point something kilo. Once it's over a little bit over a kilo, it goes as almost 2 kilos. Like international, it's very expensive. So if you're overseas and you're looking at buying one of these bars, that's about around the starting price now, you know, or about the mid price of sending a bar overseas. So expect to pay that. That's Australian dollars, so, you know, it's a bit less in US dollars, say, for instance. But yeah, it's very expensive to post, and the heavier the bar is, the higher it goes. So around a 1 kilo bar might cost about $45, and a 1.5 kilo bar will cost about $65 up to $70 to send. So, you know, you got to take that into account, you know. So that's probably about average, probably about the minimum too, by the time you factor in packaging and all that. So that's just something to consider. I normally I don't sell to international, but in this case I put it up as international because otherwise it's very hard to view this internationally. And last time I put up copper bars on eBay, a lot of people from YouTube wanted to see the auctions, but they couldn't see it because it wasn't listed as available overseas. So that's the only reason why I made them available internationally, so you can see the auctions easily. And well, you know, you never know, some people might want to actually, you know, are prepared to pay, you know, quite high in postage. But read the description if you're interested, and read all the little things, and just before you bid, to make sure that you know what you're buying. All right, so that's them there. And yeah, it's pretty much the same auction, just a variation in sizes, and the actual every bar is obviously unique and different. So this one here is 1.38 kilos, 3.04 pounds. And yeah, that's 58.95 Australian. And so there you go. So to all those you know, there's a lot of people on YouTube that knock me about pouring copper bars, and you know, I say, well, this is a hobby, this is why I pour, but there's also value in pouring, in making your own bars. So it's not turning scrap copper into scrap copper, it's turning scrap copper into, you know, a bit of an artistic bar, and people collect them. So, you know, for some people they might say, well, I wouldn't collect them, but there's a lot of people out there that love stacking metal, and copper is one of those metals that people like. And it's not a matter of just walking out in the streets and picking up a you know, a bunch of copper out of a microwave or a TV or something. You know, there's a lot of work to go to get it to this stage, and it's not easy. You need very high temperatures. All right, guys. Well, I hope that this whole video was a bit of fun, and you know, it's not, you know, to be, you know, it's not something I take overly seriously. I'm not particularly worried if these sell or not. I'll leave them up. I'll probably leave them up for a month. But otherwise they'll just go into my collection, and I'll continue to be pouring my own bars for my personal collection as I go. Probably the next video that I'll do on pouring metal will be aluminium. I want to melt some extruded aluminium and turn them into very large ingots, and I might even list a few on eBay, but they're basically for my personal collection as well. So there you go, guys. I'm Electrical Gadgets. So check me out if you want to see these auctions, and you want to, you know, put them in your watch list, and you can keep an eye on every bar that I've got going. I've got 14 listed here. And so about the cheapest one is the 1 kilo bar. It's $44.95. It's because it's spot on 1 kilo, and it's pretty much perfect. This bar, you know, it's a couple of dollars more than my than the system that I used, but because I'm really happy to keep this one anyway. But anyway, there you go, guys. Keep scrapping, have fun, and I'll catch you next time.